Is it cheating if your partner, if you're in a relationship and your partner likes pictures of somebody of the opposite sex? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. Everybody's definition of cheating looks different. Let me first establish that. Let me also establish that if somebody were to cheat on you, no matter what form it is, if you consider it cheating, if somebody were to cheat on you, what would you do? It doesn't matter if it's, well, it just depends on the situation. No. If somebody were to cheat on you, what would you do? It doesn't matter if they slept with somebody else, or it doesn't matter if they were intimate with somebody else, in the sense of like not sleeping with them, but like just more emotional wise, or it doesn't matter if they were liking pictures on social media, you consider that cheating. Whatever you consider cheating, if somebody were to do it, somebody were to cheat on you, what would you do? And I ask that question because once we get into this, you have to stick with that. So, do you consider your partner liking pictures of other people to be cheating? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. Some people say it depends. It depends on what kind of pictures are we talking about. Is it just a friend from high school and you like their pictures, or does it have to be a half-naked woman or a half-naked man, or does it have to be a risque video or picture? Does it have to be a video of somebody twerking or somebody dancing provocatively? Like, it just depends, right? Does it have to be an ex? Does it have to be somebody you were with in the past? It just depends. Do you consider it to be cheating? I feel like regardless if you consider it to be cheating or not, you might consider it to be uncomfortable. Meaning you don't like how it feels when your partner doesn't. You don't like how it's perceived when your partner does it. You don't like what comes with that when your partner does that action. So first and foremost, we can establish no matter what, you're uncomfortable with it. Is it considered to be cheating? Once again, just depends, right? But if it makes you uncomfortable, that causes for you to investigate, right? So that calls for you to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable. But let me ask you a question. Because your partner can acknowledge that you're uncomfortable with it. Your partner can acknowledge that you don't like it, but your partner can also disagree with you. Doesn't mean that they're invalidating your feelings. They can say, hey, I recognize that you're uncomfortable with this. I recognize that you don't like when I do this, but I like doing this and I am okay with this. So they're validating your feelings and emotions because they see you and they hear you. They understand where you're coming from, but they don't necessarily agree with you. What happens when they don't? What happens if they don't? Because you might want them to change because you're uncomfortable, but what if they want you to change because it does make them comfortable? How do you meet in the middle? What if you can't meet in the middle? What if it has to be one way or the other? Okay, your partner's willing to change, but are they willing to change because you told them, or are they willing to change because they genuinely want to? What I mean by that is, you told them, hey, it makes me uncomfortable. They say, hey, I hear you. What can I do? And you say, hey, I just need you to stop liking pictures of other women or other men because it makes me uncomfortable. They say, okay, cool, I'll do it. They're either going to do it because they genuinely want to, because they love you and they care for you, and they didn't recognize that that made you that uncomfortable, so they're genuinely going to stop, because what's the point? If I got to choose between these other women or these other men or you, I'm always going to choose you because I love you and I care for you and I want to be in a relationship with only you. So therefore, I'm going to stop if this makes you uncomfortable. Or are they going to stop temporarily because you told them to, but they're going to go back to what they want to do, which is continue to like the pictures and videos because it doesn't make them uncomfortable, it makes you uncomfortable. So they're going to stop temporarily until you're satisfied, but then they're going to start up again because that's not what they wanted to do. Or they're going to say, hey, you know what? Deal with it. Excuse me. You're going to say deal with it. Because you might be uncomfortable with it, but I am comfortable with it. So it's either you live with me doing this or you don't, and we go separate ways. So you have to determine, is this something worth breaking up over? Is this something worth leaving a relationship over? But when we draw back a little bit, we already established the fact that before going into this, we were uncomfortable. Before we voiced our opinion and how we felt, we already acknowledged that we were uncomfortable with them liking pictures. So do you stay uncomfortable in that situation, knowing that long term, this is one of those uncomfortable things you're going to have to deal with if you decide to stay in this relationship, because they're not going to change, whether if they change temporarily because you told them to and they went back to what they were doing, or they not going to change at all because they told you just something you got to deal with and they were upfront about it. Is it something worth leaving over? Or are you going to stay in that relationship? Do you consider it cheating? Because if it's cheating, in your personal opinion, then there's no question, right? Because if they cheat on you, you already made the decision that no matter what form of cheating it is, you're going to leave. But if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, what they're not willing to change, and you two can't meet in the middle, then what do? And I feel like right now where you are is you're trying to determine, well, there's really not any middle ground, and they're not willing to stop doing it. So do I stay in this relationship knowing that he loves me, he cares for me, he wants to be with me, but this is just so big that it continues to make me uncomfortable? Or am I willing to stay in a place of complacency and be uncomfortable if that means that I get to stay in this relationship with him and I just am able to look past this and not see it as a big deal as I'm making it, and even though it makes me uncomfortable? Because you're not making it into a big deal, you're acknowledging it. If you change the wordage, it makes sense. Because if you make something to a big deal, then you feel like you're over-exaggerating, you're doing too much, and you need to tone it down a little bit because you shouldn't be feeling this way. But if you just acknowledge that you're reacting because you're acknowledging a situation that's making you uncomfortable and you're voicing your opinion about it, you realize that you're not making it a big deal. You're just acknowledging that it's making you uncomfortable, and you're a human and you should be comfortable in a relationship with somebody who loves and cares for you. So what I'm trying to say is your feelings and your emotions are valid, but what you decide to do because of your feelings and emotions is determined on you and what you decide to do. There's no right or wrong answer. There's just what you're comfortable with and uncomfortable with and what you want to do going forward.